going on everyone? My name is Andy, welcome back to another FPL video, and today we're looking at the best opening fixtures for FPL from Game Weeks 1 to 5, looking at the teams with the best fixtures, whether you should be avoiding them regardless of their fixtures, and also some key players from those teams as well. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you're new around here. And if you want to join the Let's Talk FPL League, the code is in the description. Otherwise, I'm just going to jump straight into it. Really pleased to say this video has been sponsored by fantasyfootballscout.co.uk, one of the best fantasy football sites out there. I've been using it for years. If you want to check it out, click the link in the description below. Their members area offers tons of content. You've got fixture tickers and player comparison tools. You can create custom tables to check out player stats. You've got a rate my team function and loads more. So if you want to check it out, and I highly recommend you do, you won't regret it. The link is in the description below. So we'll start off with Bournemouth. There's a lot of hype around them, starting off with two promoted teams, Sheffield United at home and Aston Villa away. So a lot of people are looking at Bournemouth assets. They're usually a team that does pretty well goal scoring wise. Defensively, maybe in a lot of people's minds, not so much. But going forward for sure, and with those two fixtures to open up, even though after that it gets a little bit trickier, there's obviously a lot of love for them, and obviously we have transfers as well. So if they don't do well, or if they do well but you want to get them out before the fixtures, you could make a transfer down the line as well. So going to go through some of their players. Just to have a quick look, they're not really a team that I would ever consider that good defensively, and they did concede 70 goals last year, but they kept 10 clean sheets. So you could say that's maybe a little bit lucky, but their expected goals conceded, I've mentioned this a few times now, was about 58. So you could say they were unlucky to concede as many goals as they did. You could also say that it was potentially bad goalkeeping. So we'll have to see whether they can improve on that. But if they could get 10 clean sheets again, that would be pretty good. And hopefully, you know, after conceding 70, there's a little bit of room for improvement. And obviously a lot of that is also going to rely on Aki staying. There has been rumours he's going to be going to Man City. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. So for expected goals, last year they were the 7th best team. They're ahead of the likes of Leicester, Wolves and Everton, which is pretty good going. So we do expect goals from Bournemouth, and especially with those two opening fixtures. So the three players I've picked out, you've got Smith, 4.5 million. Like I say, there's probably not going to be a lot of love for Bournemouth defence, but potentially the goalkeeper could do well as well, whoever the number one is. But Smith should be pretty much nailed in that right back position. They have signed Jack Stacey, so we'll have to see what happens there. But I'm expecting him to come in as kind of a squad player. But yeah, pre-season might tell us more than that. Fraser was obviously extremely good last year. He's gone up to 7.5 million. Obviously, he was 5.5. He'd be in every single team now. He had 4.8 points per game last year, which is the best for 7.5 million mids and under. It's actually the same as Tielemans. Now, obviously, whether either of them can keep that up this season, we'll have to wait and see. But that's pretty decent returns. If you look at kind of chances created, he was third, only behind Hazard and Maddison, and was actually top for expected assists. So potentially could have done even slightly better than those two as well. So he scored 181 points last year. I don't think there's that much chance of him beating that. The key question you've got to ask yourself is, can he do it again? And if he does, he's going to be an absolute bargain for 7.5 million. And obviously, even if he scores a few less, he could be. But idea is, of course, to get them in when they have good fixtures and then get rid before the returns go down. And I think at some point this season, Fraser will be worth 7.5 million. There's just obviously people not as keen to go for him when he's not 5.5. Then lastly, I've chose King. Could have been Callum Wilson. I mean, King is a big favourite because he's on penalties and he's a lot cheaper than Wilson, 1.5 million. And arguably, because of those two opening fixtures, got the best fixtures of all the 6.5s. Over the course of the season, that maybe players like Jota, whoever becomes the Chelsea number one forward, could do better. But I think right now with those two opening fixtures, it's hard to look past King. The first 8 fixtures last year, he got 5 attacking returns, 4 goals and 1 assist. So he did start off pretty good, and was 4 points per game. So that was only beaten by Jota and DFA, but they were midfielders last year, so they would have scored less points had they been forwards. So yeah, Bournemouth looking pretty good. I've currently got 3 in my team. I think I'll go for at least 2. Those 3 on the screen are really good options, but then you've got Wilson and potentially the goalkeeper as well. So out of the 3 promoted teams, Villa definitely have the best opening fixtures. Norwich in particular is pretty tricky. Villa do have Spurs away on the opening day of the season, which is a great fixture to open up with. But then it's Bournemouth, Everton and West Ham all at home in the next 4 fixtures. So they're pretty good. Out of the 3 promoted teams, they conceded 61 goals, which was the worst of all the promoted teams. And they also scored the least as well. And obviously with a promoted team, you just never know how they're going to do in the Premier League, whether they're going to be able to make the step up. And I do think for the most part you probably should limit the amount of players you put in your opening day squad. See if anyone emerges, then you can put them in later on. Villa have made quite a few new signings. Wesley and Target both on the list of players to look at. Both new signings, so we'll have to wait and see whether they can gel as well as whether they can make the step up. So looking at a few of the players that I picked out. Target I've spoke about in other videos. 23 chances created in just 1,187 minutes last year. That should be one of the best for 4.5 million defenders. So it's not bad. And I think when I've seen him for Southampton, I think he's been pretty good. I do like his delivery. So I think on that left side, they're going to create quite a few chances. It's just whether or not players like Wesley will be able to convert them. So I do like Target. Grealish is an interesting one. I listened to a podcast by Planet FPL. Highly recommend it. They've done a 30 and 30 in June, so they've got loads of great content. And they did one on Villa with Adam Hopcroft. And he basically said that Grealish was kind of rejuvenated basically under the new boss. And in his last 16 games of the Championship last year, he had 11 attacking returns. So he's an interesting one. There's a lot of kind of hype around him, I think, because he's such a well-known player. A lot of people like him. He's only 6 million. There isn't much choice around the 6 million mark just yet. I think, kind of 5 to 6 million. There's no real standout. So if that's the kind of budget you've got to spend in midfield, he could be worth a shot with those opening fixtures. We'll have to see how he does. But there's definitely a lot of hype around him. And then Wesley, who doesn't like a bit of Brazilian flair? Last year was in the Belgian first decision, so he got 10 goals, 9 assists in 28 games, which is a pretty decent return. Obviously, he's not Premier League proven. He's in a newly promoted team. Could he be the next Jimenez? Maybe, but the problem is we just don't know. And well, I don't mind the odd punt or two in my opening game week team, game week 1 team. I just wouldn't want to put too many. So I like Aston Villa's fixtures. I think if you're going to go for a punt, might be one of the best options. Obviously, you've got Norwich, who scored way more goals than them last year, but they do have much trickier fixtures. So Grealish could be good at 6. If you really want to go for a punt, maybe Wesley up front. So West Ham, definitely an interesting one. A bit like Aston Villa, they've got a tough opening fixture. They've got Man City at home. I wouldn't be expecting too much from that fixture. But then it's Brighton, Norwich and Aston Villa away in the next 4 fixtures. So they've got pretty good fixtures after that, just not a great opening one. The worrying thing about them is last year, for expected goals conceded in the Premier League, they were the 3rd worst team. So I'm a bit cautious of going for their defenders. They've made some pretty good signings in Fornals and Haller. Haller up front and then Fornals kind of attacking mid. I've only read about them. I don't know too much about them, so I'm not going to pretend that I do. And maybe if you've got West Ham fans watching, they might want to leave a comment below. But yeah, Fornals attacking midfielder, kind of play anywhere across the front 3. Probably going to be like an essential attacking midfielder. The good thing about that is he's probably going to help Haller and also bring in whoever plays wide, which you'd think would be Anderson, maybe Yarmolenko. We'll have to see exactly how they line up. So, I mean, he's going to be a good link player there. Not necessarily going to get too many attacking returns himself. This is Fornals talking about. 2 goals and 3 assists in 35 La Liga games last year. But if he can be creative for the other attacking players, they could make them really good. In terms of expected goals, they weren't that far behind Everton, Wolves, Leicester and Bournemouth. So I do think there's potential there. But talking about the defenders first, Balbuena, I like him a lot. Diop seems to be the obvious one, but Balbuena I think has got a bit more goal threat. So I've said this again in another video that he beat Diop for shots in much less minutes. So I like Balbuena if he's going to be #1 choice. We'll have to see in the last couple of pre-season games what happens. But because of their defensive performances last year, I'm not too sure I'll go with them from the off, even with the good fixtures, because I just don't know where too many clean sheets are coming from in those opening fixtures. But for a 4.5 million player that maybe sits on your bench and gets the odd goal, he could be worth a look. They do have Fabianski in goal as well, which obviously they had him last year as well. But I wouldn't expect him to go worse. I think he's a really good keeper. So West Ham, I think there's definitely room for improvement when it comes to defensive returns. Anderson's an interesting one. I think a lot of people got burnt by him last year. 9 goals and 4 assists, which, considering how well he started, probably wasn't good enough. But in the opening 19 games, he got, the first half of the season, 10 attacking returns, 8 of which were goals. If he could repeat that for 7 million, and they got the fixtures to do it, he could be a really great buy. 4.3 points per game was the 3rd best out of all the current £7 million midfielders. It was only just behind Milivojevic, who obviously got so many penalties. He was right up the rankings. So I think Anderson's a quality player. I think he's going to start the season. And if he can, get off to the same start that he did last season, he's going to be brilliant. And then Haller, is the one to look at. You're going to assume now he's the first choice forward. Hernandez probably going to be more of a squad player now, even though he's number 9 and obviously Arnautovic is gone. I think it's a little bit disappointing that he was 7.5 million. I thought he might be the same price as Arnautovic, but they're obviously thinking that maybe he could take penalties off Noble, and the fact that he's such a quality player that he's going to come in and do it straight away in the Premier League. But he's not Premier League proven. He's the same price as Jimenez. You can get Jota for $1 million less. I think it's tough to go for him from the off, but at some point we might want to jump on him. So Bundesliga is where he played last year. 24 goals, 13 assists in 60 Bundesliga matches in total, which is really good. And then before that, it was 41 goals, 15 assists in 82 of the Dutch First League as well. Last season, so a bit more recent, 15 goals, 9 assists in 29 games. That's 24 attack and returns. So we don't really talk about this a lot. I've mentioned it a few times, but strikers, if they can get assists as well, that really tops up their points, because obviously it's only 1 point less than they get for a goal. Not so many bonus points for it, but it does all add up. So if you can come in with goals but also get assists, maybe like bring the likes of Anderson into play and help them get goals as well, then I think it could be a really good option. But what you could do, for example, you could have Wilson for 8 million from the start, get the 2 promoted teams, and then when West Ham get Norwich at home, you could then make the switch if he's playing as good as everyone expects. So West Ham, I think, have got really good options there. I think they've got really good value if they can kick on from last season. Obviously, we'll just have to wait and see if that happens. There is a lot of love for Everton in pre-season. I think rightly so. Their players are pretty nicely priced. They've got really good fixtures, as you can see on the screen. Last year, towards the end of the season, they really improved defensively. Obviously, people hoping that carries on. And really no reason not to, although it does look like Zuma might stay at Chelsea, which could cause some problems. They might not be as defensively solid. We'll have to see who they start at centre-back or whether they bring anyone new in. But Luca Digne is one of the most talked about defenders, especially outside the top 6. 6 million, created 71 chances last year. That's the same as Bernardo Silva, 2 behind Eriksen and only 2 behind Sigurdsson as well. Was only 29 off Maddison, and when you consider he's a left-back, Luca Digne, that's really good going. Obviously has set pieces as well, or at least some of them. So lots of love for him, and I think rightly so. He should be nailed. Last year he took a bit of time to get going in the Premier League, but once he did, he was absolutely on fire. And he got 4.5 points per game last year, which was one of the best for 6 million defenders. I think David Luiz beat him, but not many other defenders that are absolutely nailed beat him. So arguably one of the best options. I can see why people are going for him. Obviously, there's talks about going for Coleman. And to be fair, at the back end of last season, Coleman did match him for points. He's 0.5 million less. Probably got more chances of an open goal or an open play goal with Coleman. Obviously, if Luca Digne's taking free kicks and stuff, that will help him out. But from open play, Coleman does look good. So if you really had to save 0.5 million, I don't think it's the worst thing to go for Coleman. But Luca Digne definitely the better option. I've put Richarlison in. There is a lot of love for Sigurdsson. I didn't put him because everyone's talking about him anyway. Not really many people talking about Richarlison. So points per game for the whole season last year was not as good as Sigurdsson, right? And Sigurdsson's on some set pieces, probably on penalties, although he hasn't scored too many of the last few that he's taken for Everton, so we'll have to see there. But Sigurdsson does look like the better pick. But we have to remember how good Richarlison has started the last 2 seasons. So for the first 19 games, so again, half the season, last year he got 11 attack and returns, and he missed 2 of the opening 19 games through suspension. Now obviously it's not good that he got a red card, but that means he played even less games, got 11 attack and returns. And the previous season he got 10 attack and returns. So it's nearly an attack and return every other game. Yes, he tails off towards the latter end of the season for whatever reason that is. But I think he could be a really good opener if you don't want to go for Sigurdsson, basically, for 8 million with those fixtures. He is a goal-scoring midfielder. He will score from open play, and I think he's going to do well again this season. I don't see why not with those fixtures. So maybe it's something a little bit different to Sigurdsson. I'd look at Richarlison. Then lastly, you got Calvert-Lewin up front. I'm not really too hot on this. I know he's 6 million. There's a lot of potential there, but I really need to see something in pre-season. He's been talked up a lot by the club. And of course they want him to do well, and the only other really option they can play up front is Tozen, who hasn't really shone since he came into the league. So we'll see. He did get 11 attack and returns last year in 1,700 minutes, which isn't great, but he's obviously young and you'd hope he can improve. And obviously if they do give him the chance to play from the off, which looks probably likely that they will do unless they sign anyone else, then for 6 million he could be one of the better options. So let's wait and see if they sign anyone else. Otherwise, for 6 million, like I said, with those fixtures to start off, you could always then switch to someone like Ings or Wesley if he's doing well. So it's not the worst option to go for, but for me it's really Luca Dean, Coleman, Sigurdsson and Richarlison who are probably the best options at Everton. So that's it for this video. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like on the video. That really helps, lets me know what content you're enjoying and what I should make more of. If you're new, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when all the videos and live streams are happening, and leave me a comment down below. Are there any players that I've mentioned that you're bringing in? Are there any players I haven't mentioned that you think I should have, and what do you think of these teams in general? Are you looking to kind of double up, triple up, or just not go with them at all? If you want to catch any more FPL content, there's loads on the channel already, and there's loads more to come, so go and check that as well. Go and watch another video and let me know what you think. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I will catch you next time.